Hello, Facebook. So, starting a little bit early, always prompt here. I am Jennifer Fields, and this is the Real Behind the Realtor interview series. So, super excited about my guest tonight. You may know him as the Drone Geek. So, without further ado, let me bring in Chris. There he is.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great. Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. So, this is a question I never asked you. Where did the Drone Geek name come from? Is that your self proclaimed name, or did someone give that to you?
No, that is my self-proclaimed name, and it comes from a background. I've always been a video game geek. I've always been into comic books and superheroes. So when I started in on actually flying drones, I sort of geeked out over drones the same way that I did all of those other things. So I thought
Love it.
the drone geek fits, I guess.
Yes, that's awesome. Perfect. So I always do this in kind of two parts. I do kind of more serious questions, getting to know you and your business and share all of that with our audience. And then I have just kind of some fun questions at the end that I like to wrap up with.
Awesome.
So Chris, for people that may not know you, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Lancaster County.
Sure. So I grew up actually in north central Pennsylvania in the Williamsport area, lived there for pretty much, really my entire life. I actually went to college at Lock Haven University, which is just a stone's throw away from home. So once I graduated from Lock Haven, I worked in radio for a few years. I was a morning show host for a small radio station in Lock Haven. And then I realized that working in radio wasn't necessarily going to pay the bills immediately. So I decided it was time to venture out and explore some new facets of my skills and different professions out there. So I actually started working at a bank. I started as a teller and worked my way into their marketing department, which sort of started my marketing career.
Okay.
That leads into my drone stuff further down the road. But I worked as a marketing manager for a small bank chain in north central Pennsylvania. And then I ended up moving to Lancaster because I wanted to spread my wings a little bit and get away from my hometown area.
Okay.
So I moved to Lancaster in 2018, and I actually started working at the Webstront store in their customer service department.
No way.
Yep. So it was a little transitional job. I worked there for a bit, and then I worked at a marketing agency in Lancaster before finally landing in a marketing role at a software company in York. Now, that brings us to the drone side of things. So let me rewind, I guess, and go back. In 2017, my dad bought a drone for himself.
Okay.
So he took it out and he'd fly it, and I'd stand there and watch him fly it. And he just kind of got tired of it. And he said, you know what? I don't know how to fly this thing well enough. Could you learn how to fly it and then teach me? So I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? And it was just this little tiny drone. And so I picked the controller up and immediately knew that there was something that I really liked about it. Just flying this little drone around. And I got really good about, putting it around the backyard. And my dad, I think, also noticed the spark and the interest in drones because just a few months later, for Christmas, he and my mom got together and actually bought me a really nice drone for my first Christmas gift for my first drone. And that's sort of where it all took off. I started flying what they call, it's the DJI Phantom 3.
Okay.
That was the drone that they got me. I started flying that, and I didn't really know what kind of a tool I had in my hands. I knew this thing would fly, take pictures and video, but I didn't realize just how capable it was. So I took it out and I flew it just about anywhere you could fly a drone. There were a few years there was a year, I guess, maybe with just 1 year, between 2018 and 2019 where I didn't fly my drone at all. I got busy with other things and I just sort of put it away for a while. Fast forward then to 2019, my now girlfriend, Katie, wanted to go on an international trip. And so one place that I've always wanted to travel in my life was France. I always wanted to go to France because my family's heritage is from France. And so I thought that'd be a really cool place to go. So we scheduled this trip to France, and I thought it's already going to be so cool that we're in France. Why not take the drone with us?
Yeah.
So that sort of reignited my passion for drones. And that's sort of where the Drone Geek brand started because I started an Instagram page to document our trip through France.
Got it.
So as we were working our way through, I developed the brand a little bit more, and I originally started as Drone Geek Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
before dropping the Lancaster part and adding that more as a location to my bio. And I just became the drone geek because I was taking pictures of just about everywhere, not just Lancaster.
Okay.
March of 2020, right before the pandemic and
Mm.
lockdowns took effect, I decided to start Drone Geek Productions. And I've been operating aerial imaging through Drone Geek Productions, my aerial imaging company, since March of 2020. And over the past over a year now, I've seen my business grow to a point that I didn't think it would get to.
Yeah.
So, a lot's happening right now. There's a lot of new business coming down the pipeline, and I'm really excited about some of the opportunities I have coming up. So everything's been going great. And that's sort of where I'm at right now with my drone business.
I love that. Especially, I didn't realize timing wise that it really took off like right before lockdown. So I think that for people that are aspiring, entrepreneurs and small businesses that like creatives that are thinking, okay, how can I take this hobby and really, make it into a business? I think that is just really exciting to hear that, even in, pre-pandemic, right before we were in lockdown, that you still made it happen. So that's awesome. Great.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where I started the business, got my license, and had it registered in the state, and then lockdown started. And as soon as that happened, I thought, I'm not going to make it 3 months.
Yeah.
This is game over for me already. But just a little perseverance, a few strokes of luck, and here I am, still survived the pandemic, and starting strong in 2021.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations to you and the budding business. I love it.
Thank you.
So in the last couple of years, as I know very little about drones. I know in our technology conversations, I'm kind of like, yep, whatever you say, Chris. Like, you are the expert. You do you, which I love. That I can give you my vision for people that may not know. Chris has started helping me out with some real estate things and just some kind of neighborhood feature, just area features, which I love, and dabbling more into that. How has the world of drones changed since you first got into it to now?
There's been a lot of change. That's the way that I can put it in a nutshell. To give you an idea, when I started, which was about 5 years ago now, a little less than 5 years ago now, drones were largely, you could find cases of them being used outside of just photography and video, but that was really largely what they were used for. And that's still somewhat true today. The main application of drone technology right now is still photography and video. But what we've seen in the past few years is applications outside of just the photo and video capabilities. They now have the capability of doing mapping and rendering. So you can have a drone fly around a skyscraper and take a series of pictures up and down and around the skyscraper, and then put it through a program, and it'll actually build a 3D model of the skyscraper.
Impressive.
And what's really neat about that is a lot of those same drones that can do that also collect telemetry data and photogrammetry data that allows you to get, I think it's within 1/4 of an inch in terms of the exact ratio and measurements of these structures and these maps they're making. So it's not just a visually appealing rendering or map. It's also a highly accurate map too. So that can be used in construction and land surveying, all sorts of different applications. The other two big advancements we've seen with the drone industry are in thermals. So you put a FLIR thermal camera on a drone, and that helps in a multitude of ways, including search and rescue. It helps you identify maybe weaknesses in a solar panel field. You can also tell, things you wouldn't even think of, like holes in a roof. The temperature will change in, depending upon where the holes are at. And then the other one that I saw, which was also use temperature to determine something, is water tower inspections. If you look at a water tower in a thermal picture, the cooler part of the tower is going to be where the water level is at. And then you can sort of see where the water level's at in the tower. So, and then of course, the other one is military technology, recon, things of that nature. There have been a lot of big advancements in terms of creating devices that allow our armed services to be safer out in the field. You can actually, instead of sending somebody out to scout or recon an area, you can put a drone in the air to go survey an area before you send troops and assets into that area. So it's a really neat time right now, and drone technology is skyrocketing in terms of its application and how it's going to help society as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's super fascinating. So one thing I know, because I've just in my world of real estate, I know there are agents that have thought about, getting into drones and doing their own thing, which I think we're seeing less of. So from your perspective, what is the difference between someone who's like looking to do it as a hobby versus a career, or maybe explain what you had to go through to get where you are? Because I feel like it's not something you can just pick up and do on your own in, a week. It takes a lot of practice and training and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I would differentiate it is if you want to be a hobbyist and do it for fun, you can actually go to the store, buy a drone today. And I would say that you can pick up how to fly the drone physically, as long as you get like a DJI, an Autel, a Skydio, something that has altitude hold and a lot of safety features to it. As a beginner and a hobbyist, you can go get a drone right now, and I would be confident you'd pick it up in a few hours.
Okay.
So it is accessible to a lot of people just because of the way technology is advanced. But where the interesting conversation and the training and the skills come in is through the commercial side of things.
Okay.
So there's a phrase that we use in the drone industry that the FAA has really put into bold italicized letters. It's called in furtherance of a business. So when you do commercial work with a drone, a lot of people think that, first of all, you need your Part 107 license if you're going to do commercial work. So anything that would benefit a business or earn you money. And that first part that I mentioned is sort of the one that people don't understand fully. If you work for a real estate agency, for instance, or you work for a marketing department, and you fly a drone to get video or pictures or collect data, any use of a drone for the application of your business, your company, or organization, that is considered commercial work, which would require a Part 107. Money does not have to change hands directly for the services of the drone. So that's really the big thing. And I would encourage anybody that's looking to use their drone in furtherance of their business or organization, follow the rules and get their Part 107. As for how involved that is, you do need to have a basic understanding of airspace, how airspace works, which airspaces you can navigate, how you navigate those airspaces, and which ones you can't. Those are really big parts of understanding the Part 107 and how to attain that. The other parts are pretty easy to remember. It's a lot of common sense stuff. For instance, drones, this is just an example. A rule that most drone pilots know is drones can't exceed 400 feet above ground level. That is our airspace from 0 to 399 or 400. That's where drones can operate safely. There are some exceptions. I won't go down that rabbit hole because we'd be here forever then. But those are the types of rules that you need to know off the top of your head before taking that test.
Okay. Good to know. Kind of down that road as well, are there any kind of tips, suggestions, or words of wisdom that you would give to other drone hobbyists or enthusiasts?
Sure, absolutely. The tips that I would say for anybody, if you're just a hobbyist or commercial, is if it feels like it might be wrong, it probably is. If you have to ask whether or not you should be doing this, you probably shouldn't be doing it. But the big thing that I always try to hit home is just following the rules that are put in place by the FAA. There's a big conversation that's going on in our industry, especially with the hobbyist community, because for years these people have been flying model aircraft, airplanes, helicopters, just toys really, and model aircraft, and been completely unregulated by the FAA because really there was no need to. But since the implementation of technology like the DJI drones, for instance, which they have a range of 5 miles and they can go 1,600 feet up in the air, they have limitations set on them, but only to a certain point. So with the implementation of that technology, the FAA has had to step in and set some guidelines and some boundaries for the remote pilots and the remote operators. So it's super important that you follow the guidelines, because if you aren't and something were to happen, A, you would be held liable, but B, the whole community is held liable, and more restrictions, more rules get put into place, which makes it harder to use these pieces of technology for the benefit of ourselves as well as the people around us.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, no, I like how you said, if it doesn't feel right, you probably shouldn't do it.
Exactly.
That's a good phrase for anyone in life.
It really is.
Don't do it. I love that. In terms of you and Drone Geek Productions, what are your goals for the rest of 2021, and kind of what are your future aspirations?
Yeah, sure. So the goals for the rest of 2021 are to continue growing my business portfolio, growing client base, just continuing to make sure that I have work available to me and that I'm helping as many people as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Future goals moving forward are to sort of break out of just doing photography and video
Okay.
work and to focus a little bit more on the mapping, the 3D rendering, and that sector of the industry. The other side that I'd really like to, and I don't know if this is a 2022 goal necessarily, but I think that within the next 5 years, I'd really like to seriously be into this side of the industry, is agriculture.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah.
big call for agriculture. They make drones now that you can put chemicals in to spray the crops with if that's what the farmer wants, or even just
Okay.
water. You can water an
Yeah.
entire field of crops in half the time with a drone by filling the tanks up in it with water, and then it has sprayers that spray the crops as you fly over. So
Okay.
I would really like to, especially with the abundancy of farmland in Lancaster County and the surrounding
Right.
area, get involved in the agriculture part of drones.
Okay. I love that. That'd be super applicable to Lancaster County.
It
Cool.
would be.
And for people that don't know you, where can they find you? I will obviously list all of your handles and all of that, but where are you most present in the world of social media?
Sure. Yeah. So the two big platforms that I spend most of my time on and you'll have the most success reaching me are Instagram first and foremost, because I post there at least 5 days a week. It's usually Monday through Friday, but sometimes I mix it up and post on the weekends too. Instagram, I am super responsive with my DMs. So if you have any questions, if you just want to chat, feel free to shoot me a message. I'll get to you as soon as I can. The other platform that is super busy for me and I'm trying to grow, actively grow it, is my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube at The Drone Geek. Just type that in and my channel will pop up. It's a picture of me cartoonized with a Superman outfit on. It's a little ridiculous, but I have fun with it. It's a different side of my personality though too. On Instagram and on my business's website, I try to keep it a little bit more professional. Instagram, it's a little casual sometimes, but I keep it within reason. My YouTube is a little bit more of the cartoon side of me. So keep that in mind if you do go to visit my YouTube channel, but it's a lot of fun. And I guarantee you, if you don't know a lot about drones, you'll learn a lot on my channel because I talk a lot about the industry, the types of gear that you can buy, and what they're all capable of. So again, just search me on YouTube, The Drone Geek. And if you're interested in drones, definitely subscribe to my channel because I've got a lot of content coming for the rest of the year.
Great. Perfect. Well, that kind of concludes about the business side of things. So we're going to shift gears kind of into the fun questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is your favorite word?
Whew, my favorite word. This one was a tough one to come up with a favorite word. But I would have to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious because I love Mary Poppins. And that was one of those songs that just sort of stuck with me when I was a kid. So that word I would say is probably number one on my list of words.
I love that. We share a love of Mary Poppins. I always reference the practically perfect in every way with her tape measure. And anytime I can't find anything in my purse, I refer to it's like Mary Poppins carpet bag and it just keeps going. So
real quick aside, one of my favorite moments in pop culture for movies, like I said, I'm a huge superhero and comic book nerd. So naturally I gravitated towards the Marvel movies. And in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Michael Rooker's character Yondu is floating with Chris Pratt's character Star-Lord, and he's sort of safely taking him up into the sky. And Chris Pratt's character looks at him and goes, "You look like Mary Poppins." And immediately I start laughing because that's the first thing I thought. But then Yondu goes, "Who's Mary Poppins? Is she cool? Or is he cool?" And Chris Pratt's character goes, "Yeah, he's the coolest." And Michael Rooker yells, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." And that part gets me every single time. I think that's the funniest thing ever.
That is great. I love that. Well, and this is probably a good segue into the next statement. So tell me something that makes you smile.
What makes me smile? There's a lot of things that make me smile. So I guess picking one to talk about is more the difficult part. Easy one that I don't really have to hash out too much. Dogs and cats make me smile. When I'm walking down the street and I see a dog, I will immediately crack a smile. But really the more serious one, and maybe the more like, oh, it's ooey gooey, is my girlfriend Katie makes me smile. She always has something funny to say to me in the morning, or she always does something that sort of makes me chuckle. So I would say more often than not, it's her.
That is very sweet. What is either a sound or a noise that you love?
Oh, you know what? I just talked about this today. This is sort of a weird noise. Aside from the sound of my propellers starting up when I start my drone, it this one is super satisfying. And I didn't think about it till today. I had an eye doctor appointment today,
Mhm.
and I was getting prescribed new contacts. And I was talking to my eye doctor about it, and I really love the sound of a contact adhesing to your eyeball, that like pop sound, and then like the feeling of it around your eye. It for some reason it's just super satisfying to me.
As a contact wearer, I can understand that because you're like, just get in there. Just look. I
I
love
think that's what it is. Is once I hear that sound, I'm like, okay, it's good. We're good to go.
it. Good to go. Exactly. I love it. This one might be hard to whittle it down to, but what is one thing, or I guess the major thing that you love about drones?
Yeah, this one I have an answer for. I think it's a good answer, and I hope that you guys can appreciate it. I love drones because it allows you to see the world that you see every single day from a brand new perspective. I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many times I've walked down King Street to go get something to eat at lunchtime or dinner time, and I see that stretch, and I really love the stretch of King Street that includes Penn Square. But then to be
Mhm.
able to put my drone in the air and look down into Penn Square and get a different look at it is just awesome to me. And it's so satisfying to be able to say, I didn't just see it from ground level, I can
Yeah.
also see it from above. And that, I think that's what I love about drones the most.
I think that's too. I mean, obviously, once I connected with you on Instagram and following, your posts and everything, all your content, which I love. I think especially the Lancaster things. I love the architecture in downtown Lancaster, so I think that is something that makes me appreciate it as well. Is that there are certain aspects of architecture I like, but then from the drone perspective, it's totally new. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love that. Very cool.
Absolutely.
If you could pick any other profession than the one you are currently in, what is something you would like to attempt?
Yeah, this one is also, I have two answers for it. So I cheated a little bit. The first one is one that relates a little bit more to the drones.
Okay.
Really, I would love to be a Nat Geo explorer. That's one of my
Mm,
favorite things, is to watch those documentaries on National Geographic
yeah.
and see the men and women that go out into the field and explore nature and watch animals and document their journeys. That's like my all-time dream job. But
Yeah.
if it weren't drone related or photography related, multimedia related, I would love to be a professional tennis coach. That would be one of my
Mm,
favorite things. I play tennis pretty regularly at Racket Club West, and
okay.
I've played the game for years, and I love it. So I'd love to be able to pass that on to the next generation and be a
Yeah.
professional tennis coach.
Very cool.
Mhm.
And then my last question for you, Chris, is thinking back on 2020, what is the biggest lesson or takeaway that you have learned from that year?
Yeah, I don't mean to be cliche at all, but the biggest takeaway is perseverance is key. You're going to face challenge after challenge in your life, and I feel that the 2020 pandemic and the lockdowns that came with it challenged all of us on an
Mhm.
equal playing field in many, many different ways. So
Yeah.
not only did we have the challenge of just the lockdown itself and the pandemic itself, but little challenges stemmed off of that. So 2020 was just a real doozy. And if there's one thing that I learned, it's that if I can make it through that, if other people can make it through that and come out on the other side just fine, that you can really deal with anything if you put your mind to it and just keep persevering.
So true. Take those obstacles and turn them into opportunities. I love it.
Absolutely.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Chris. It has been a pleasure getting to know more about you. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you learned something about Chris and about drones. Like I mentioned, I will drop his social media handles, but check him out on Instagram and YouTube. And I will catch you guys on The Real Behind the Realtor next week. Thanks again, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.